This is a little story about growing up outside of Chattanooga in the 1950s. I call it hot and humid summer days and Saturday matinees. When I was growing up, we lived in Wauhatchie. It had other names, Tiftonia, later in the 1960s, Lookout Valley, but Mama always called it Wauhatchie. I knew the little business district on Cummings Highway was called Tiftonia, but I didn't like the sound of that, and besides, Wauhatchie was much older and went back to the fierce Chickamauga Indian chief, Wauhatchie the Glass, and I always thought that was pretty cool. Our home on the side of a hollow at the foot of Raccoon Mountain was 6 air miles and at least 2 centuries from downtown Chattanooga. On a clear day, you could climb the mountain behind our house and see the tall buildings downtown. But as they used to say, you could see it from here, but you can't get there. Before the interstate opened in the mid-60s, you had to drive down Kelly's Ferry Road, turn on to old US 41 Cummings Highway, drive on the 4-lane over the foot of Lookout Mountain, go under the rail underpass, drive all the way down Broad Street, crossing over 14 lead tracks at the Union Station just to get to downtown. It was only about 10 road miles, but with all the traffic coming from Nashville and Birmingham, and the twists and turns, the occasional trains, it usually took at least an hour to get there. In our family, we only had one car, so we were usually stuck at home. But once a week, a bus ran on Saturday morning from the valley to downtown. Every Saturday morning, the bus came down Kelly's Ferry, past our house, the Hale bus line. It was an old converted school bus, painted bright red. For 50 cents per passenger, you could ride the unair-conditioned bus round trip to downtown Chattanooga and back. About every other week in the summer, my mama would dress me and my brother Joe up in our starched short-sleeved white shirts, black short pants, black socks and shoes, our hair neatly slicked down with Vitalis hair tonic, and off we would go to town. The bus dropped us off at 6th and Broad. Mother would take me by the hand and I would take Joe, and we walked a block or so to the Tivoli Theater. The Tivoli was an Art Deco masterpiece built in the 1920s. It was the only place I knew of with air conditioning, and I thought it was heaven in the hot, humid August days. They had a Saturday matinee for a quarter. My brother and I always tried to get in the front of the line so that we could get the first tickets and make a mad dash for the front row of the mezzanine balcony section. The Tivoli always showed a black and white newsreel, followed by 2 serials, a cartoon, and finally a feature-length film, almost always a Cowboy and Indians film by Republic Pictures with Gene Autry and occasionally Roy Rogers. And I loved Pancho and Cisco, the Lone Ranger and Tonto, Buck Rogers, Hopalong Cassidy, and Superman. They were my childhood heroes, and I felt like I knew them all as personal friends. Since we only came every other week, we were fortunate that the serials always had a little recap at the beginning. The city kids were all regulars and always eager to fill you in if you missed something. We didn't have much money, so Coke and popcorn were out, but we felt like we were the luckiest boys in Wauhatchie. Too quickly, the credits would run on the feature, and Joe and I found ourselves on the sidewalk waiting on Ma. Pretty soon she'd show up with a couple of shopping bags with all the stuff she couldn't get at Odell's grocery in the valley. We would help her carry the bags to the bus stop and catch that little Red Hale Bus Line's bus promptly at 2:30 for the hour-long trip back around the mountains to the valley. The cast iron foundries polluted Chattanooga air so much that even though we had been in an air-conditioned theater, the collars of our white shirts and the edges of our sleeves would have black rings from the soot around them by the time we got home. The bus was hot. We usually fell asleep, dreaming of the next adventures with Poncho and Cisco. Well, we didn't have much money, but we were rich in experience in the long ago summer days of the 1950s. I miss my brother and my mama and my Saturday matinee visits with my black and white serial friends on the Tivoli big screen. Thank you.